Let me ask you something. What does an A really tell you about your child? Maybe your child studied hard and that's great. Maybe the content was way too easy and they just mailed it in. Maybe they're actually 2 grade levels behind in their understanding, but still passing because schools don't have time for remediation, and a B- grade is way easier than having a parent-teacher conference. The truth is, traditional grades don't tell us much about what a student actually knows or what their potential could be. Maybe your student just needed a little more time studying fractions and their multiplication tables, and they weren't really bad at math. Maybe they just needed more time. In fact, a study highlighted by the Hetchinger report found that nearly 60% of course grades in middle and high schools are wrong. Think about that. More than half of all grades that your child earns fail to actually reflect what they know and understand. Too often, grades measure compliance, turning in homework, following directions, participating publicly when a teacher asks a question, rather than the actual mastery of course material. And don't even get me started on unlimited test-taking retakes. At Drew, we've taken a different path. We don't do grades. Instead, at Drew, we've reimagined the old pass-fail method. Our model is built on mastery learning, which is really the top tier of pass-fail. That means our kids work on a concept until they've mastered it, or at least developed a very strong working knowledge. Then they move forward. No rushing ahead with shaky foundations, no getting left behind, no thinking they are just bad at something, just real learning. And here's the best part. By removing grades, there is no longer an A+ student in 4th grade. If a student can do the work at higher levels, we just move them up. We try to find their ceiling of knowledge and place the student there. I would rather see a 4th grade student working on 6th grade content rather than see them just making straight A's for the next 2 years with minimal effort. At Drew, we're looking for that struggle zone, the area where a student has to think, has to focus, has to do the work, and feels extremely rewarded when they experience that deep learning success. And this deep learning happens during what we call core skills, which is a very focused 2 to 3 hour block every morning of intentional schoolwork. Students work deep into math, reading, writing, grammar, typing, public speaking, even outside research. This is where the mastery occurs. Because this learning block is a dedicated time window, students learn to focus, build stamina, and ultimately develop independence and agency. They care about learning. But here's the key. We don't just track whether they get the right answers. We track effort. That's why at Drew, we've built something what I believe is better than grades. We call it grit scoring, a breakthrough way to measure effort, progress, and mastery. Grit stands for exactly what you would think it would stand for: sticking to something over a period of time and getting it right, even though it might be hard. Grit scoring is a dynamic measure of effort. Every day, your students' grit scores reflect the work they've put in during core skills, their engagement, their ability to stay on task, and their willingness to push through when it gets tough. At the heart of grit scoring, it's a simple belief. If students put in the effort, it's our responsibility as educators to make sure they succeed. Here's how it works. With grit scoring, a student's grade in each learning area adapts daily to reflect their ongoing effort and engagement. If a student puts in the effort required for an A grade, they earn an A for effort grade. Scores are based on tangible effort markers, things like problem solved, learning blocks mastered, or completion milestones, not just time spent. And because the grit score updates daily, parents can see in real time if their child is giving their best effort and moving forward, or if they're just mailing it in. Unlike conventional A, B, C grades that can't be changed, or being a 6-week lagging indicator, a grit score is a calculation of effort required to gain mastery in a learning area, and it resets daily and weekly. This is what makes grit scoring so powerful. It's live, it's flexible, and tied directly to a student's choices and actions every single day. Remember, grit is not about talent, it's not about being smart, it's about effort. And in our opinion, effort is the one thing every student can control and every parent can encourage. Now, you might be wondering, what about teachers? At Drew, we don't have traditional teachers. we have learning coaches. A teacher's job is to deliver information. A learning coach's job is to unlock motivation, provide accountability, and guide students toward highly intentional effort. It's a big difference. And yes, some of our coaches will come in with advanced academic backgrounds. It's always a big bonus for us if they hold a master's degree or are proficient in subjects like calculus and chemistry. But what matters most is their ability to coach, to motivate, and to hold students accountable. And our learning coaches are trained to use grit data to guide accountability coaching. When a coach sees a consistent pattern of underachievement, the student will be flagged and our coaches will meet one-on-one with the student in a 30-minute session. Together, both the student and the coach review learning data, identify potential issues, map out new objectives, and set strategies for success. The point is, a student quickly realizes that they cannot hide, and they now have a coach on their side that's willing to help them. The whole process is collaborative, it's personalized, and it keeps students accountable to their own long-term progress. In my opinion, this is where growth really happens, when students start owning their journey. And for students who come in behind grade level, we don't let them slip through the cracks. Our Catch Me Up program is designed to go backwards academically and meet a student wherever they might be, fill in the gaps, and rebuild confidence without ever separating kids from their peers. So, if a student needs to review third grade math while their classmates are in fourth, they do it quietly, confidently, and without stigma. Once the student has mastered their knowledge gaps, they move back up. It's about meeting kids where they are and helping them move forward through small wins and developing confidence so they can tackle the harder stuff later on. At Drew, we also believe deeply in the power of the parents. Again, in our opinion, without a strong parent partnership, no student will reach their full potential. That's why we give parents daily and weekly access to grit scores. You'll know exactly how much effort your child is putting in. And you'll be part of the process of celebrating wins, helping redirect when necessary, and reinforcing goals at home. This isn't just a school your child attends. It's a team effort between students, parents, and coaches. So here's the difference. At Drew, learning is not about chasing grades. It's about mastering skills, building grit, and not being afraid to try. Every student has the chance to reach their potential and to do it at their own pace without ever being left behind, or if they want to run, let them run. That's the Drew difference. Real learning, real coaches, real progress, real success.